All right. I'm here with the amazing Tess Masters. I'm so excited to have you here. I know my community knows you a little bit, but I had to get you on today because I'm about to share something that you are offering and that I've done numerous times. And I just really want everyone to really understand what it is, because I can explain and whatnot, but who better to have on than the creator to really explain what it is. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I get excited about this because it changes people's lives. So
Yes.
it's always great to share it with new people.
All right, so I'm just gonna take everyone back for a second because here's like the backstory. The backstory is that like I actually have the honor of being friends with Tess, which is such a privilege. And I was talking to her back at the beginning, probably of the pandemic, at some point, and I was reflecting on the fact, like, if anyone who's been following me for a long time knows that I have been vegan, I've been gluten free. I share a little less about the food now, but basically, food has changed my life. That's how I got into all this in the beginning. And I was telling Tess that like I haven't changed that much from what I've always been doing, but I'm 45 and I was just feeling like moody and hormonal. And like I thought maybe this was just how it was supposed to be, but like I didn't really want to be this way because I had learned how to feel so good. And she was like, no, 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 no. I really actually think there's a next level and that you can do this. And so I was like, all right, I'll do anything. And so literally like a week later, I'm in her program, um, just changing up my food. Like, and it was cool because it was like, it was not anything like that new, although there were some things for sure that I learned, but it was just so nuanced that it really worked. And I noticed changes like immediately, which felt so amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing, right? Is that the strategies in the program are just common sense, you know, concepts that are out there in the world, but it's about putting them together in a strategic way. And
Yeah.
then within the framework of the program, finding the perfect blend of those strategies and of those foods for you and your needs at this time. And I think that's the magic of it being live and actually being under the guidance of registered dietitians, people with medical licenses, where we really get to know every single participant. Everybody goes through the 60-day cycle together. You can contact us. There's free video calls every week, but also through email. We really get to know you and your needs, and we can go back and forth and keep tweaking and tweaking so that you do really move into that nuanced relationship with food, and where you understand what to do to help your body to run better. And I think that's where the magic lies.
All right. I just have to say, if anyone who's listening is like panicking because they're like, oh my God, well, that's great that she does all this, but so obviously I can't afford it. Like, I literally can't believe what you do for what you charge. But anyway, it's so amazing.
Well,
So,
look, I did really discount the program during the pandemic, and I'm really committed to doing that because so many people are struggling and their lives have been upended, and people just want to be able to make changes. And I want to make it accessible to as many people as possible, because that's really our passion, is to help people achieve better health. And I just don't want finances to be one of the barriers to doing that.
yeah. So, okay, so I'm just going to tell them a little bit more of what sort of unraveled in my world as I was doing this. So, I jumped in pretty quickly. And because I jumped in pretty quickly, and Tess is like so thoughtful in how she like rolls out this thing. So, there's like a prep week, and she like really has you email her exactly what's going on with you and like where you're at, and you're filling out an assessment of where you're at, and you're tracking, and it's just so thoughtful. And I jumped in really quickly at a really busy time. Well, because we were in the pandemic and we had all kids were home. Um, and what was so beautiful was like there's a way to follow the rules and really understand the system without having to do all the things. So I kind of started that way, and I would like I did like smoothies, and like I could figure out my and I'm pretty comfortable in the kitchen, so I could figure out my way. But there was times when like I just needed to follow the rules and like not do a recipe. And that was great. And then I just felt such amazing results that I started telling everyone in Flow 365 in our program. And what was so fun was in this, I decided to do it a second round because I was like, okay, well, now it's time to try the recipes, which by the way, it's like you're going to a restaurant every time you make one because they're so yummy. And So I started saying that I was going to do this again. And then a big group of people from Flow 365 joined, along with other people from this community who weren't in Flow 365, joined the next round. And it was just really fun to watch how everybody found their footing, like in different ways. And everyone experienced the results that they needed in this experience, which was just really cool to see, because I don't think it always works that way, that there's so many different paths you could take.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, that's why the program happens live. So I don't want to just throw people a bunch of materials and go, okay, well, here's some stuff. Thanks for your money. Go and figure it out on your own. Google away. You know, I'm not a big fan of Dr. Google. I think it leads you down into rabbit warrens that can be really misleading. So, you know, I think this idea of the program being modular and you figuring out how to go through the program in the way that works for you and your lifestyle and your budget and your family needs, etc., is a really lovely thing. And I mean, you were wonderful at really creating a lovely environment for the people in your specific community to go through it. And it's, look, I mean, that's the great joy of running the program, is just experiencing the aha moments for people and the miraculous changes and transformations, and just how small little tweaks can make such a massive difference when you put it all together, you know. And I think that we are all data collection agencies, or we should think of ourselves that way, right? And I think that, you know, a lot of people will ask me, skinny 60, God, that's a bit off-putting. You know, I can't stand the word skinny as it relates to this obsession with, you know, being thin or fat shaming or trying to look like airbrushed models, or, you know, that doesn't interest me at all. To me, it's about strength, awareness, and confidence to make smart choices or better choices at any size. But more importantly, it's about getting the skinny, the information on what helps your body to run better today. And that changes as our needs change, our age, our activity levels, our hormones, our stress levels, our emotions, climate, etc. All of those things change. So we do constantly need to be gathering that data in order to be able to have informed conversations with our doctor and other practitioners. So throughout the 60-day program, it's about gathering that data, that anecdotal data on yourself, in order to then go and have further testing, or using our dietitian evaluations to then go and have your blood panels done, right? So there's lots of different markers of health. So often we get caught up in this that weight is the ultimate marker of health. Weight is one indicator of better health. I would argue it's one of the most unreliable indicators of health, right? So I think that there's, for example, you can be what I call a skinny fat person, where you can be thin on the outside, but the inside, it's like a bomb went off, you know, and your blood panels can be all over the place, you know, your triglycerides, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, it's about, what is your digestion like? Are you having regular bowel movements? Do you have energy throughout the day? Are you sleeping well? There's, you know, what does your skin look like? What do your blood panels look like? There's so many markers of health. And so really, the Skinny 60, the 60-day reset is primarily a digestive tune-up, because you cannot achieve better health without better digestion. So really, the entire focus of the program is on gut health and digestion, and everything else flows from there. So the minute you have better, because, you know, there's that catchphrase, you are what you eat. Well, not really. You're technically what you digest and absorb. So if you're not actually digesting, absorbing, utilizing the nutrients that you're taking in, you could actually be the most expensive, well-fed, malnourished person on earth, you know. So we do see that quite a bit, you know, where there can be other things going on and you're not actually digesting and absorbing things efficiently. So that's really the primary focus. And so what happens when you clean up your gut health and digestion? You start sleeping better. Your hormones get regulated. You have energy and sustained energy throughout the day. Your skin starts to glow. You start to feel lighter and fabulous. And, you know, all these wonderful things happen from there. And then, of course, the more you do it, then all your blood panels start to look like they're in more acceptable ranges, right? So, you know, there's a lot of testimonials on the website where people will say, I did it because my doctor gave me the talking to and said I needed to make some changes, you know. So we do encourage everyone to have labs done right before the program and then after the program, because the blood doesn't lie. The blood can't lie. So it's incredibly illuminating, you know, and a lot of doctors, you know, we have a lot of doctors and medical practitioners do the program because a patient's gone to them and they've gone, what have you been doing? You know, so it's kind of thrilling because, you know, a lot, you know, Mia, you and I have talked about this many times on all the conversations we've had, where when you work in an industry where you're constantly helping other people to achieve better health, you can often neglect your own health, right? So it's a
Yeah.
very, very common phenomenon that we see with doctors and surgeons and nurses and naturopaths. And oh gosh, I've got so many people in the community where they go, it's time for me to just focus on me. And, if you're a mum, you're focused on your kids and their well-being, or your husband and what he needs, or, whatever, or I know a lot of us are caring for our elderly parents later in life. And we're just nurturers, particularly as women, where we're just focused on everybody else, and we can just, the day gets away, and then before we know it, 365 days have gone away, and it's like, gosh, I really don't feel that great, And I think too that when you're used to having acid reflux, burping and farting and feeling bloated, gassy and tired and exhausted all the time, and waking up like you haven't slept in a week, we just accept that as, oh, that's part of life. Everybody does that, or it's just part of being stressed, or I'm 45 or I'm 55 and I'm in menopause and that's just how life's going to be for me. I hear this constantly from people. Like at the end of the program, we're just about to finish the cycle now, and I'm starting to get the emails from people who they're just going, I just can't tell you what this has done for my life, because I just thought this was how my life was going to be. This is just how I was going to feel because I was at a certain age, I know Julie in your community, that was something that she wrote to me, where she goes, I just figured these aches and pains, I was just getting older and that's how it was. No, actually, when you've got really good digestion and you're in a place of better health, that doesn't have to be your reality.
Oh my gosh. And I was having like just these cramps from, our cycle that were just taking me down. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it must be what normally happens when you're 45. Like it just, this must be normal. And literally that went away super, super quickly.
Yeah,
and has not come back.
Yeah, well, that's a really, I love hearing that from you, because I actually had the same experience with menstrual cramping. And when I adopted these principles, so the Skinny 60, I created the program based on things that I've been doing for over 30 years, and I put them together in a strategic fashion. And I, like you, was going through menopause, and I just was touring with books and consulting, and I was on planes, trains, and automobiles, 2 weeks out of every month. And before I knew it, I kind of went, gosh, for the first time in my life, my metabolism slowed down and I've put on 35 pounds, literally. And, I still looked completely fine. No one would have thought, oh, geez, you need to lose weight, but I just felt sluggish and tired, and I just didn't feel as good as I wanted to feel. And then my dad got diagnosed with cancer. And, when that happens to a family member or to yourself, gosh, it's a wake-up call, and you go, well, now I'm putting together all these recipes for dad and talking to his doctors and oncologists and whatever, and putting together something for him that can support his mainstream treatment. But gosh, it's really making me look at my own stuff as well. And so my mum and my sister and my brother-in-law, it was a big wake-up call for all of us, And so everybody did Skinny 60. So I created this program for all of us, and we all got incredible results. And then I thought, well, gosh, I wonder if this will work for other people. And so I'm a very huge researcher, and I have to make sure everything's really credible and well-founded and, all that sort of stuff. And so I spent a year putting this together, and then I brought on an advisory board of some of the best doctors and dietitians in the country. Thankfully, a lot of them are my colleagues, and just to make absolutely sure that it was scientifically sound, rooted in good research and all that sort of thing. And then I brought on a team of dietitians to help facilitate the program, because it was really important to me that people with medical licenses were helping the participants. And I put a beta group through, and then I put another group through, and another group through, and another group through. And here we are, thousands and thousands of people later. And the data's in now, it's just a system that works, whether you're young or old, you're an athlete, you're sedentary, you have aches and pains, you are a vegan and in great health, or whatever it might be. I had a lovely testimonial from Penny, who's actually joining for her third cycle because she just wants to keep learning and growing and taking things to the next level. But she brought up a really interesting point. She was saying, like you, Mia, you were already very knowledgeable, about health and nutrition. You were eating a very healthy life, and you thought, everything was rocking along, and likewise, she was an athlete in really good health. I thought my digestion was good. I didn't actually realize that it wasn't as good as it needed to be, and that actually things could get even better, and my stamina and endurance could be better, and my recovery time could be better, and I could get rid of some of these things, And I think that's a really interesting point. Like, yes, we do have a lot of people who come and they are in poor health, and their doctors, you know, their labs are all over the place in alarming ranges, or they have some really very serious things going on, and then they get to this really wonderful place. But then we also have people like you and like Penny and several other people who just go, you know, I'm feeling pretty good, but I know I can feel better. There's just a few things that I just need to tweak. And that's why I love the word nuanced. I love that you use that word, because that's a word that we use all the time in the community. It's about, you know, another woman, actually, lovely woman, Trish, she wrote about this in her testimony, where she said, I just Googled and I saw all this stuff on the internet, and I had all these lists of healthy foods for healthy hair, and foods for heart health, and foods for whatever. But I didn't know how to put them all together. Like, I know I should be eating broccoli, but I don't know how to make broccoli taste good. But I also don't know anything beyond that.
Yeah.
I think that we can get into that trap of going, well, I'm eating all the right foods. Well, why am I not feeling so good? And why are these problems still existing? And I think that the strategy behind this, and then just figuring out a system of how to put these things together, I think that's when you really move into that nuanced understanding of your relationship with food. And I think that's where the real magic happens. And the cool thing about this too is I didn't want to just create something that was like this one and done 60-day thing, you know? So another person, actually Stephanie, she pointed this out, which is really great. It's always great to hear all this feedback from people, right? Where she just said, I did Weight Watchers, I did 2 and 5, I did Whole30, I did all these different things, and I got results, but it was sort of miserable doing it. And I didn't feel like I could sustain it and do it for the rest of my life. And that's another big reason why I created this, because I didn't find anything out there that I felt was truly sustainable, that I saw that in the testimonials or anywhere where people were going, I've been doing this for 5 years now, and we're going to do this for the rest of our life. And that's what's cool about it. You're going to get a nutrition education from me and the dietitians, and you're going to get all of these strategies and information about health and nutrition that you're going to be able to apply for the rest of your life. Now, will you put it together in different ways as you see fit in terms of what you need as it changes 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even next year or next season? Yes. But the information's there on the website for you forever, you know, and the community is there for you, you know, and then you take what you like and leave the rest, right? And just put things together. And so for me, that's the exciting part of it, is because that's the number one. But besides, I'm sleeping better and I've got more energy than I've ever had in my life. That's the number one benefit of the program, right? And my digestion's amazing. But the second thing is, I feel like I can do this for the rest of my life, you know, and I'm going to make the recipes when I feel like making them, or I'm going to apply the principles and make my own meals, applying the principles, right? And I think, you know, you talked about that in the beginning of this conversation. And I think that's the beauty of it. It's like people go, well, I get enough protein. Well, that's actually up to you, because when you use our protein formula, everybody thinks more protein is what we need. More is more, you know, more is better. Well, more is just more, actually, because we all have different protein needs according to our weight and our activity levels and our health needs. And so we need to understand how much protein we actually need. And protein is responsible for every metabolic process in the body. So we need quality protein, but excess protein or more protein than we need actually irritates and overwhelms the body. And it actually gets in the way of your health and weight loss, right? So these kind of things that you learn where it's like, gosh, I'm eating way too much protein, or I'm not eating anywhere near enough protein. You know, there was on office hours, you know, it's really interesting. People that join office hours every single week, you know, we have these interesting conversations about stuff, and people just free form and ask questions. But I had this one woman, Leslie, gosh, she's joining again too, because she just wants to, she's brought her best friend in now and they're doing it together. So I've got all these sisters and best friends and mothers and daughters and husbands and wives. And it's kind of cool to do that too. But she came to me, I think it was 6 weeks in, and she goes, oh gosh, I just feel so good, but I'm still a little bit tired. And I said, okay. And I asked her a series of questions, and I said, are you tracking your protein? She goes, that's the one bit that I'm not doing. And I said, can you just do me a favor? Can you just track your protein for the next week? And I have a feeling that's the key for you. 2 days later, she writes to me and she goes, I cannot believe the difference. I just cannot believe how much energy I can't believe it. You know, so sometimes it's just these small things where it's like, whoa, you know, and to me, it's almost like a little Rubik's Cube or a Tetris puzzle with each person, where it's just so cool to just go, ooh, okay, well, let's try. And we're not really stabbing in the dark, because we've done this with so many people at this point where we kind of, you know, generally know what's going on. But every once in a while, it takes a few weeks, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, you're intolerant to this food. Okay, well, let's do this and whatever. And that's actually what really gets me excited, is just figuring it out for each person and going, oh, and then when you just see people go, "Ka-cha!" and then everything just, like you described, just everything comes together and you're like, I can't believe I can't believe I could have been feeling this good all along, you know, and it was just
Yeah.
these small things, you know, and it's so exciting because we don't want to be feeling miserable and deprived and doing something extreme to be healthy. Like, who wants to do that? It's just miserable. And I mean, because we're friends, you know this. I mean, I don't know anyone that can eat me under the table. Like, I love to eat. I love to eat a lot. And it just has to be mind-blowingly delicious. I mean, I say this funny thing on the website where people respond to, they just laugh their heads off, right? I go, I create every recipe like it's my last meal on earth and I'm cooking for George Clooney, right? Like, it just has to be the most incredible thing I've ever eaten, right? Or I have another kind of yardstick. If the New York Times was gonna try one recipe of mine and put it out and share it with the world, if this was the recipe, would I be okay with that? And if the answer is no, it doesn't make it in the recipe center, right? So, I mean, I just won't stop until it's just a party in your mouth and decadent and rich and incredible. Because while you're being healthy, you don't want to sacrifice that feeling of indulgence and, oh, that's amazing. And I mean, for me, look, I mean, since I started the Blender Girl in 2010, the mission hasn't changed. You know, whether people are doing the decadent detox programs or this 60-day reset or skinny 60 or anything, the mission's the same. It's just to get people to love vegetables and get excited about them, you know? And for me, that's what really gets me excited, because, you know, you can do 2 tracks of the program. You don't need to be a vegetarian or a vegan. You could do the omnivore track and supplement it with chicken or fish or steak or whatever you want, eggs or whatever you want, right? So that's another cool thing, is everybody decides what are your dietary stripes? How do you want to move through this? What's going to work for you? You know, and even though you and I are gluten-free and vegan, you know, we have a lot in common in that regard. That's not the right fit for everybody, you
Yeah.
know? So it's, but what's the one thing that everyone agrees on in the health and nutrition space? And it's literally proven in science that vegetables are good for us and we should be
I
eating a
love
lot, right? And everybody should be plant-based. And I'm a little bit disappointed that that term's become synonymous with vegan, because it's not the same thing. So plant-based means that your diet should be based in vegetables, and then you supplement with other high quality foods regardless.
I call it plant centered around here. I think
Yeah,
that's the one.
I like that. I love that term. Yeah, I love that term, you know, and I think it is about, just like we're redefining the word skinny, um, I think it's time to redefine some of these other terms that get bantied around in the food space, you know, and they're good catchphrases to sell convenience products or sell food or sell programs or whatever. But I think they're a bit misleading. So, you know, and this idea of, what does healthy mean? You know, and for me, it's about balance. You know, that was my word of last year, and it's certainly my word this year, particularly, you know, as we're going through this really challenging time. It is about finding balance. And it's about, you know, another thing, and I know this really resonates with you because you and I have spoken about it, but we have this mantra in the community: good, better, or best, not perfect.
Yeah.
And this idea of, if you somehow fall into an old habit, or you sneak a bite of this comfort food, you've screwed up all your results and it's all over, Red Rover. No, we all do that, you know. And this idea that we're not striving for perfection, it doesn't exist. It's impossible to obtain, you know, particularly if you're type A like we are, right? Where we're just constantly striving for better, 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 more, right? We're never going to achieve it. So it's this thing of making better, not perfect choices more often. And I think that when you consistently do that, not only are you more in balance, you're happier. You don't beat up on yourself, you know, and it's just about just doing the best that you can on any given day. You know, I think that's another comment we get a lot, is just, oh gosh, you know, I just, on other things I've done, I just feel like a bit embarrassed to tell everybody that I didn't do this or I did do this or whatever. No, it's just, I mean, I kind of feel like life's a cha-cha, you know. It's not, we don't just move forward, you know, it's, you take a few steps back, a few steps forward, side to side, around and around, and sometimes you're completely upside down and you get lost. I actually think that's where the greatest lessons come from. When you get a good old taste of what you might not want to be doing or what might not be good for you, that's when you kind of go, ooh, I don't know. I didn't only read it in the program materials, I feel it. I feel the difference. And that happens a lot, you know, in the first 3 or 4 weeks. Somebody might go to a celebration or a birthday party or something at work or a restaurant, and they're like, oh gosh, I ate that, but gosh, the next day I just felt the way I felt a month ago. I was tired. I had foggy brain. I just felt bloated. And then boom, I just went straight back in. And everything just rebounded within a day. And that's the cool thing. Like when you get to this really great place, your body just remembers and it wants to go back to that place. And so it just goes, yes, hello, you're back. You're looking after us, and just, and look, when you have more energy, you just have a better life because you have more fun. You can get more done. You're up for anything. You can speak on the phone with your friends. You can dance around with your kids. You can, rock climb or whatever you want to do, right? Or travel or what, all these things we're dying to do at the moment. But if you don't have any energy and you feel terrible, your quality of life's always going to be compromised. And, it's interesting. Another person opened their video testimonial with, I joined because my friend got diagnosed with cancer and they really had amazing results with changing their diet and their lifestyle. And she goes, I thought to myself, why do we only make changes when there's a tragedy or something dramatic? Why can't it just be just because you want to see how good you can feel? And so she said, I joined because I wanted to see how good I could feel at 54. And wow, did I figure it out, and I think that's also a lovely reason to join, or just to do something for you. Go, I'm going to do this with a bunch of other people. I mean, I think that's what's really cool about when you brought so many people in, which I was so grateful for because they're so lovely. And, people that have, joined the cooking club and I know them very, very well now, but to do it with other people, or to do it with even a community of strangers in the beginning. There was another woman, Susan, gosh, she's so lovely. She's actually joined multiple cycles as well, just because she loves the community. But she said, I've actually made friends with people I've never met, just because we're on these video calls or we're cooking together in the cooking classes or whatever. And I just feel like I know these people, even though we've never met, but I know that we're all in this together and people are going to prop us up. I mean, I think that's what's so great about online groups, the Facebook group. And, there's lots of people who choose not to be on Facebook and I don't blame them. And you don't need to be on Facebook to do the program, but it is another level of support beyond the video calls and the face-to-face contact. I mean, you and I, obviously we do lots of Facebook lives, but that's the cool thing about Zoom, right? And these video calls where you can actually speak to people face-to-face and actually see them. And some people want to keep their video off because they're shy, and that's fine too. But it's kind of cool, like, because so many people come who already have the Blender Girl cookbooks or they're on the Blender Girl Facebook page and they've watched hundreds of my Facebook lives or whatever it is, but I can't see those people. They're just names out there in the world, right? And then when you can put a face to the name, you're like, oh gosh, I remember you, all those comments you put on the Facebook lives, and now we're speaking face to face. And it's just really cool to be meeting people, for me personally, but then for other people to get to know each other. And I know that happened a lot in your community because, Flow 365 is so that way. You're just camaraderie and you're all together every week and just helping to lift each other up, and you're all collectively achieving your goals, right? And helping to elevate and celebrate each other. And I think that, I mean, there's studies done about this, right? That when you do things in a community, you have that accountability, you have that structure, you have that community of support, you've got that, just that safety net, where you feel like you're in a safe place, where you're supported and understood, and there's other people that are going through a similar experience. It's not exactly the same, like we talked about, because everyone's going to customize. That's the cool thing about the software, where you just drag and drop whatever you're eating and you make your meal plan every week and totally decide what you're doing, But that's why I love your community so much, because you foster that same community, as we do in our community. And I think that's why they're so complementary, because it is that support and those weekly check-ins, and that we've got your back. You can do it. Even if you're not having your best week, what can you do today? Well, maybe just drink some lemon water, stay hydrated this week. If that's, maybe go to bed a little bit earlier this week. If that's all you can do for health, it's still amazing. It's still
and we're going to do something a little bit different this time. Just to say it out loud, my light is funny. Because last time what happened is that it was like mostly people from Flow 365 who signed up, but there was definitely a big group of people who just signed up because maybe you're just watching this now, you just get the email and you're not in Flow 365. And I really felt bad that those people were left out. So this time I'm actually going to do 3 or 4 calls throughout it for my community, with the lens of like, not the food, because you answer all that so beautifully, but with the lens of like balance in life and like, what happens if you have a business trip? What happens if you have the kids home? What happens if the kids won't eat the dinner? Like all the little things that happen that like could derail a mother.
And I love you for that. And I think, and I really, I mean, look, I love you for many reasons, but the support that you give your community, I mean, it's amazing. And if you want me to join those calls, I'm happy to do that with you. Although you're the planning genius and you've got all these amazing, you know, tools for mums and all that other stuff. But, you know, absolutely just call me and I'm happy to join.
And the other thing that I do want to share while we're on here is because you've shared all these amazing testimonials. So I shared that for, first of all, anyone listening who's in their 40s and having any of this hormonal crap that like we're told is normal, definitely like this is a must try. Like I was at the end of my rope and thinking I had to go, like I avoid doctors pretty much. And I was thinking I had to go to a doctor and like do something about it. That's thing one. Thing two is that I did release 30 pounds, which wasn't exactly the goal, but was very nice and helped back to where I had wanted to be. And where also what I had just thought was like part of being 45, right? Like my story was originally losing 85 pounds 12 years ago. And I was like, that's great. And then maybe when you get older, you just put a little bit more on, but like, you know, I just didn't see it. So that was fabulous. And my kids, like, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but we were sitting at dinner one night and my kids were like, Mama, you're so different. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, you're so nice. I wasn't nice before. And they're like, well, you're just like a different kind of relaxed now. And they totally attributed it to this. So I was like, oh, you know, I'll keep it going. You know, I'll keep the things going. Like they just totally noticed a shift in energy, which was, you know, I was feeling, but it's cool when, you know, your kids or the people you share dinner with can see that in you too.
Oh, thank you for sharing that with me. Look, it's just so lovely. I mean, again, it's about quality of life, right?
Yeah.
When you make changes, you know, it's the law of physics, right? When some article changes, the articles connected to it have to change, right? It's just part of it, right? And I do think, you know, this, you're not the only person that talks about this, you know, because obviously, you know, there's 4 principles in the program. It's priming your digestion, nourishing yourself with balanced nutrition, pacing what you eat throughout the day and what you do and your exercise and whatever. And then it's restore. And I think you're really talking about this piece, right? And I know you talk about this a lot with, you know, what you do so well is you nourish women with knowledge and with self-love, right? That's really what you foster. If I had to describe to somebody what you do, I think that's how I describe it, you know? And I think it's a really beautiful thing. And they go, that you have to have these 2 pieces. They have to be together, right? But restore is a really big part of the program. And it's not just about moving and exercising, which is, you know, critical for better health, whatever level you're at. You can just be walking around the block or you can be doing massive cardio workouts. It's completely up to you.
Although, wait, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because in the first 4 weeks that I was doing it, when it was like really quite full in life, kids were home, you know, I hadn't quite anticipated, you know, it's like I love how you share the joy because, you know, it's a good deal of cooking, which I hadn't necessarily been, you know, used to like that level right then at that moment. And I didn't like I walk, like, you know, I walk not for exercise, but just to get out, especially because it was the beginning of COVID. But I didn't move and it's still everything shifted. So I just have to
I know this is
eventually, like I had so much energy, I couldn't not move. And like, you know, by summer I was like running, but that's not how it started. So I just like, it really is cool how it can all like just step, you know, like you really can take 1 step at a time and it still can work.
Yes. And look, this is, I mean, again, I didn't actually say that because I don't want to encourage people not to exercise, but you'll see quite a few of those videos on the page too of people going, I just ate myself to losing 30 pounds. I didn't even exercise, you know, but obviously we do want to move and exercise is the other piece, right? But this idea of restoring, you know, we do focus on the balance of nutrients, right? And people, a lot of people do report that they're more relaxed, right? They're not as stressed. That's not just about mindset. It is actually about the food that you eat. right?
Yeah.
And that's another thing that we talk about a lot on the program, right? So the foods that you eat, you know, we focus on magnesium, the relationship between calcium, magnesium, and sodium, potassium, and how these minerals work together to regulate stress responses in the body and help you relax and restore better sleep patterns and hormone regularity and all these different things that we learn on the program, why you're doing what you're doing. But gosh, does it make a difference? You know, I mean, magnesium's, you know, really had its moment in the sun, obviously, because some magnesium products have sort of exploded in the last 5 years. But gosh, is it important, you know? And there's just these, again, small things, you know.
Yeah,
But
no, I love that.
I
And
hear that. It's
and
wonderful.
I have found in the seeking of balance, which is pretty much what I'm teaching right now. But
That's the theme of our call. Let's call that the theme about
I know,
about.
okay, in balance, yes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
in seeking balance, what's sort of like misunderstood, I think, because when we're seeking balance, really what we're wanting is simplicity. So we're wanting like quiet, or and we think we're wanting less. But
Mm.
what's super interesting, and like you could argue this is true of like, you know, having like a meditation practice, but food is just another equivalent of that, where yes, you can spend more time, but it just relaxes your nervous system, your whole system, in a way that just allows everything to be easier. And I think that's what's really, really important to take in, because yes, I can promise you that if you join, and I'm going to do it again. Did I tell you that? Um,
Oh,
yeah,
I love that.
of course,
Yay.
so that I can be here with anyone who signs up. So, so yes, it's more work. In fact, I don't want to lie. Like, it is work to do this. Like, it takes time. We will walk you through that. We will make that easier. We will help you figure out what your time is going to be best spent doing. And that investment in yourself, in just nourishing yourself, it can just create this feeling of balance that you can't create in time. I think that's just so important, because I think we think adding means like more complication, and there's certain things you can add, food being one of them, you know, good food, that really can help.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. You know, you know, we always have great conversations, but it's a really important point. You know, I mean, you know, simplicity is an interesting thing, right? It's all dependent on your perspective about what simplicity looks like. You know, we often think simplicity means nothing, you know, but like anything, you know, again, you know, I got this from somebody else, but they said, this is an education like going to university, and you can't be expected to just get it all in the first day. You have
Right.
to read the materials, then read them again, then study a little bit, put the principles into practice, and then you're like, yes, now I'm ready to go out and, you know,
Well,
rock
and
this,
my
right?
analogy is always, so I'm a designer, you know, by trade. And so, you know, in art school, it's like the goal was to have, like, if you were doing a poster, it was like, if you could have one letter on the page that just like sat on the page, but nobody realizes how hard that is. Like, it's really hard to put one word on a page and have like everything resonant and balanced, and like, you know,
Oh,
you can't just plop it on a page. It actually takes a lot of time to do that. To do a lot of stuff on a page is actually easier than putting one word on a page. And I
it's
try to
such
always remember
a
that.
good one. It's such a good one. You know, there's another one, because obviously I'm a writer, not a designer. And there's another in the writing community where it says, I would have written you a short letter, but I didn't have time. It's because in order to distill all
Yeah.
of your ideas into a concise paragraph takes time, you know, and it takes skill, you know, and it takes dedication, you know. And I know in my cookbooks, you know, some of those paragraphs literally took me an entire day to write, you
Yeah.
know, and my editor and I would chisel them even further. So I think that's a really lovely analogy. But, you know, it is, look, you know, when people say to me, besides our thoughts and having loving, nurturing thoughts for ourselves and others in the world, I think the food that we choose to eat is one of the greatest acts of self-love for
Yeah.
ourselves and the other people in our lives. That I'm going to nourish myself. I deserve to nourish myself, and I'm going to take the time to nourish myself in a way that is going to make me be the best version of myself for myself and my family and the people in my life and my work colleagues, etc. And I deserve that, you know. And I think, to me, health is a direct reflection of self-love and self-esteem. And so when I hear from somebody, I don't have time to eat healthy, what I hear is, I don't love myself enough. That's what I hear, because there's a common theme with anybody that's in a state of acute sub-health or dis-ease, which is the precursor to chronic disease, right? So we have small symptoms of sub-health or dis-ease, and if we, a little bit of inflammation, sleeplessness, gas and bloating, they're all symptoms of dis-ease. And what happens is there's underlying root causes of those things, and if you leave those things unattended, your body's just going to keep scratching and niggling away and saying, hello, you're not quite doing what we need to be doing. We came out of the womb perfect and you're screwing everything up. What are you doing? And they're just going to your body's going to keep giving you signs, and if you don't attend to those things, that leads to chronic disease. And that's when you get the blood panels back and your doctor's got to give you the sad news that you've got to make changes because you have a disease, right? We never want to get to that place, So, going back to the cooking, what you say about the cooking, this happens so much, people will say to me, I'm really excited about this, but Tess, I'm not much of a cook, and I really love that, because it's like, you know what, you don't have to be. If you don't enjoy cooking and that's something you're never going to view as a good use of your time, you're going to go the simple approach, and you're either going to choose the 10-minute recipes, because all the recipes are filtered by time as well as type of recipe and whatever. You're going to choose the super easy stuff, and you're just going to grill a piece of chicken and make some quick vegetables or a salad, and you're done. You don't need to make complicated recipes or anything.
Right.
You can eat off meal plan. There's all these one family, one meal. You're going to do one meal for the whole family, and we're going to show you how to tweak it so everybody can eat it, right? And I know you've mastered that with your family. Or you're going to do simple off meal plan stuff. I've had people get incredible results and not make one single recipe. And you can do that, right? And the meal planning software allows you to do that, where you can still track things and you can just drag and drop a few ingredients and go, yeah, this is roughly what I ate, And so, I do think it's about figuring out, we've all got an idea of what's worth spending money on, but more importantly, we've all got very firm ideas about where our time is best spent, how we want to spend our time, because once we spend it, it's gone. You can't make more, right? So that time's gone. So it's very precious, and we're all incredibly busy, and we have families and, work obligations and so forth. But what's interesting to me is when I say to people, if you can just view, and I actually got this from you, I have to say, when we talked about planning, and you talk about planning as a gift that you give your future self, it really made me think about this stuff in a different way, so I thank you for that, where I would say to people, can you start to think about cooking as a gift that you're giving yourself and your family, and that to think of it as just this you time, this thing that you're doing for you, so that tomorrow and later today, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel really good, right? And also, it's going to be really yummy, and just so put on your favorite show and binge watch a couple of episodes, or, pour a glass of your favorite drink, or get on the phone and FaceTime with a friend, or put on your favorite music. I mean, I multitask. I'm always speaking to my mom or my friends, or watching an episode of something, or listening to my favorite music and dancing around and just making it fun. And before you know it, you've made one or two quick, easy things, and they're delicious, but you've kind of had fun doing something else, So even if you think of it as a secondary activity, some people just want to focus, and it actually becomes meditation for them almost, where it's like,
that's what happened for me. I hated the kitchen 12 years ago. And then and it's funny because people still I wrote a book that has recipes in it, and people still are like, so you love to cook? And I'm like, you know what, actually, I don't. I love to feel well. And I learned that I had to cook in order to feel well. So yes, it became a love. And I love that room. I love that space. I love how my kids come sit at the kitchen table and do their homework while I'm cooking. I love the music going. There's all these things about it that make the experience amazing. It took me a second to get there. I mean, literally, I was going through the frozen aisle 13 years ago, right? So it took me.
I love your story, but can I tell you something about myself?
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet. I don't love to cook.
Yeah.
So I love delicious food, and I love to eat. I love to eat, and I love the way I feel with amazing food, and I love the sensorial adventure of an extraordinarily nuanced, incredible flavor explosion of a dish. But do I actually love the chopping and dicing and the cooking bit of it? No, and I don't think I'm ever going to. So I think it's a really interesting point that you bring up, that just because you're good at something doesn't mean that it's your favorite thing to do. You know what I mean? So for
And I
me,
think, and
yeah,
we have
I get off on discovering the flavor combinations. I
Yeah.
don't actually want to be cooking like that every day. You know what I mean? I just want to eat it.
And I think as women, we just have a lot we have to let go of usually around that, because we don't necessarily want to be like June Cleaver in the kitchen. Like that's not an identity that we at all like want right now. And so, that's hard for us to get over. But what I have found is as I just changed the story about why I'm in there. And it's not like just an item on my to-do list, even though we do planning around here, we try to make everything not about just being an item on your to-do list. And it just has a really strong, grounded, like why I'm in the kitchen. And I can feel that every time I'm in the kitchen, which just is
I love that. So what's your why? Like, what's the story that you've built around it to make it different for you, to make you look forward to that and to make it really
So, I mean, I think it started with exactly what you said. Like, I just know that whatever I create in here gives me energy. It's like, feeding my soul. It's feeding my kids' souls. It's making them be able to concentrate better. It's making all of us sleep better. I love the experience that we've created being at the table together. And I have noticed that the experience, I'm not going to say we eat like perfect all the time. And the experience when things
nobody does.
yeah, of course. But everyone in my house can notice, like no one feels guilty, but everyone can notice the difference when something is at the table that like doesn't necessarily nurture them. So it's like, oh, funny, we just ate that and now no one can digest, so we're all going crazy. Like it's interesting how like all my kids notice that, and it's fine. Like no one's judging it or whatever. It just is the way it is, but it really does affect how you sleep, like how you can concentrate after dinner, how you feel the next day, how you're going to the bathroom, like all the things. And we forget what an impact that has on our lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, look, we say in the beginning of the program, Skinny 60 is a system for your system,
Yeah.
and you used that word earlier in our conversation, and I think that understanding that your body is a miraculous system, but you need to take care of it. Right. Yeah. And it's a system built up of a lot of little systems or big systems that all have to talk to each other. And we need to make sure that everything's firing and they're all kind of happy in the sandpit together, because when one system's not happy, it disrupts all the other systems, right? So, I mean, I think that's why not only do you need to understand how to nurture each system, but also how the entire thing comes together and works so that you are firing, and
I love that. I heard someone last week say something about an analogy to like our phones and our computers. Like we are so good about like recharging, updating, buying the latest software, for our phones, for our computers. And like, we don't do that for our bodies, which is like our most, vital asset that we have. So yes. All right. And we have been going, I said, Tess, let's talk for 20 minutes.
I know.
For almost an hour. So here we are.
I know. We could talk all night. It's hilarious.
I know. Yeah. So thank you so much. I'm hoping that this is clarifying for anyone who read the email and was like a little bit on the fence and now is really excited to join us and join you and like have these extra calls and all the different things. So
yeah, thank you for having me, because it is hard to describe on a page on the website what the experience is like. And it's a leap of faith. Handing credit card information over and buying something on the internet from someone you've never met before, and you don't know what to expect. And particularly in the health and wellness space or whatever, it's kind of like, oh yeah, been there, done that. How's this going to be different? You know what I mean? Like, why is this the one I should be doing? And I do think that not only is it always lovely when it comes recommended from somebody you already know, like, and trust, and you've been in their community, like the people in your community, but also just being able to sort of explain it, and kind of, you just don't know until you do it, and that's why, so many people enter the program because they're friends or relatives or colleagues of someone who's been in the program, because that's the most common one we get is, my friend so-and-so or my sister or my mom or whatever did, and I just can't believe what happened to her. She looks unbelievable. She looks 10 years younger or whatever, and I think that at some point you just got to dive in, and just know that I mean, we're going to take care of you. That's why it's live. You know, we're just not, I mean, I've got this thing. I'm a type A. Like, I just will not rest until every single person gets results, you know, because it's like, I feel like I've personally failed, you know, if I haven't, or my system has failed, you know, if I don't, you know, I just want everybody to experience the magic and experience what better health feels like. Because if you haven't felt really good, you just kind of didn't really understand how badly you felt before, you know, because you've just been feeling like this for years, you know, and just the revelation for most people is it's just really
All right. So I want everyone to hear, like, Tess is going to take really good care of you. If you sign up
and
with
you
the-
are
yeah,
too.
if you sign up with the link below, I'm also going to take really good care of you. And if for whatever reason, what we've motivated you to do in this video is to just take better care of yourself, that is great too. But I want to share one parting thought on that one, which is that if in our own ways, Tess and I are both consistent reminders of that message of like, you're just where you need to be, like good, better, best, like just give yourself a break. Like all of this is working for you. This is the nicest version of self-care. So if you decide to go another route or you're just taking care of yourself, the one promise everyone has to make me is that you're never allowed to beat yourself up for like going off your plan or whatever, because to me that negates any self-care that food gives you as self-care. So no beating ourselves up. That's the promise everybody has to make, because just focusing on your health through food and nutrition is such an amazing choice to make. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's going to be
Oh,
exciting.
thank you.